is and what position we are currently in. Mr. McCracken?
Thank you. Thank you for coming. I wanted to start really with this as a beginning point because what this is statutorily a treasurer twice a year has to issue a 5-year forecast to the board and to the public. And it happens in October and in May. And this was from last October. And if you happen to be at that board meeting, I literally told the board, this is toilet paper. Throw it away. Don't make any planning decisions on it. But the situation in October, there's 3 elements to all funding coming into the school district. There's federal funding, there's state foundation funding, and then there's local taxation. All of it's tax money. But at that point, we were in the middle of the 6-year reappraisal. Those numbers hadn't come in yet from the counties. We had no idea what our valuations would be. The state, we had no idea what the governor was concocting in the new state funding formula, and I'll get to that in a minute. You'll be able to tell I have a very strong opinion about that. And then the federal government, we all know the condition our federal balance sheet's in. We have no real idea what federal funding was going to look like. But when you look back historically, the numbers from this page to look at are from 2011, 2012. We were running about a $2 million a year deficit, which is absolutely unsustainable. We took some actions in the middle of the year in 11 and again in 12, and we were able to turn that situation around and get into the black in 2012. The projected numbers from 13 on, we'll get back to in another slide, but we're actually in a lot better shape this year than the 276,000 that's on this slide. The governor is, I will tell you very openly, I'm extremely frustrated with the proposal that's before the legislature right now. At best, we're being promised no cut from whatever we get this year. And frankly, I can't tell you what we're going to get this year from the state. Until they get done measuring how many kids we have, they will adjust that number. And that goes back to my level of frustration with the governor's proposal. This last biennium, last year and this year, we were told the same promise. You're going to get what you got, no cuts. Well, in January of last year, me being new at this, I did hedge against this possibility, and I frankly put some other savings off to the side. And the governor's formula recalculated to a reduced head count, and we took about a $200,000 cut in January that we were told we would never see. I called a lot of other treasurers who've been doing this a lot longer and asked, me being a newbie, did I miss something in what was being announced? And most of those guys were talking about jumping off the roof of their buildings because they did not anticipate this coming. They didn't know that was embedded in the law and the formula, and they were very shocked. And frankly, from that experience, I don't trust the proposals. I don't trust the promise of you won't get cut halfway through the new biennium. Here's the formula. But in any case, what's in this formula scares the crap out of me because 2 years from now, we're being threatened with a $2.2 million cut every year because we're on a new guarantee. What the governor has done really is to take the existing funding formula that we have, skip that, go back to the funding formula that was from his predecessor, skip that, go back to Governor Taft's funding formula. And he backed into a number that basically is a flat funded model statewide with some enhancement. But what he did was he went back to that 2009 model, backed out transportation numbers, backed out money to a vocational education component that's tagged for VOED here at a local district, and rounded up from there and said, okay, that means you get $5,000 a kid. We go back to 2009, the formula started with $5,700 a kid and then built from there. There's also carve-offs in this thing that I'm just amazed at. They're cutting ESCs by 25% and then another 25% in the proposal. They're telling us, well, the money you send to ESCs, which are your county collaborative efforts, you're going to get that money and you can go shop with that. Well, we spend about $300,000 with an ESC. We're going to get back maybe $50,000. some 35, 45, 50,000. Doesn't go very far with a zero missing off the end of that. It's extremely frustrating. Also, he is talking about an additional pool of money for special education. When I read the legislation, and then we get a notice 2 days ago from our associations, please call your senators and House members, because when I read the legislation, that sure looked like that's not new money. That's a carve off from existing special ed money being reallocated, called new, and yeah, we might get the same money at the top line, but we're going to start bleeding from even newer sources on the bottom, on the backside. It's extremely frustrating. What we're threatened with is it's a $2.2 million cut. I know Senator Gardner. I called him. This thing's going to come out of his Senate Finance Committee in the Senate when it gets from the House to the Senate, and reminded him that he lives in a district just like Firelands, rural. If you're going to kill us with a $2.2 million situation, he's in a $1.2 million situation. You might as well close your district, Senator Gardner. Are you going to close mine? And his view and his assurance was, I do not support eliminating that, but you may be capped at that forever until you grow out of that situation, which would mean about the next 400 kids that would come into the district, we would have to self-fund and educate. We wouldn't get another penny from the state. We would have to self-fund that. It would cost about $1.5 million to educate about 400 more kids with salary and benefits for teachers. We would probably be on a ballot at that point. But in any case, you know, if you go to a $2.2 million cut, I don't know how to deal with that. And I can't express how frustrated I am with that. But I want to be positive and give you some of the good news, because what's happened here financially is added to the excellence of this district and what you folks have achieved with your kids. As I mentioned, there's three components to funding a school district. There's federal, state, and local, all of it being tax money. When you go back to the peak of enrollment, back to fiscal year 10, that'd be calendar 09, calendar 10. We were receiving about $1.2 million more a year than what we're getting right now. The boxes in the purple on the top are the stimulus money that came out of the federal government. Nobody in their right mind would plan on seeing that continue. Federal government's got a printing press that's going to end someday. So we're going to have to live without that and live within it. Frankly, that third box in fiscal 12 was money we received in previous years we didn't use. We held it back to manage our cash flow as we shrunk, so that we would not be in a desperate situation. Fiscal 13, we're down to just under this 7.6 million figure, and there's nothing from a federal stimulus money that's coming in now at this point. When you look at the other funds, the previous one was general fund money. This is non-general fund money, but this also puts pressure on us fiscally, because when you look at this, these are things that are tagged for specific purposes. There's title funding, there's IDEA grant funding. IDEA B is really special education. When you look at special education as a district, we spend close to $2 million a year in special education. When you add in all the salaries and so forth, there isn't anything up there that's approaching $2 million in funding. That's mostly coming out of our general fund. So when you cut the IDEA funding, it puts more pressure on the general fund. I expect with the federal situation, we'll see cuts anywhere from 7 to 16% next year because of sequester. It's not going to happen this year. The press trying to scare everybody from the government is the cuts are going to hit schools this year. That's not true. It's funded for this year. Sequester affects next year. But in any case, the estimates we've been told in guidance to us is it could affect anywhere from 7 to 16% of federal dollars. That might also mean in subsidizing our lunch fund. You take that kind of money out of our lunch fund, we can't pay the bills in the lunch fund, that means money's going to come out of the general fund. One other thing I should point out here too is that item that says Title 2D, that's technology funding. Last year we got about $3,000. This year we got nothing. That's completely dried up. Here's the other stuff that's extremely frustrating to a treasurer when you look at the carve-offs, excuse me, of where funding has gone under our current governor. And I will tell you openly, I'm a conservative Christian voter for social reasons. This governor's extremely frustrating to me in what he's doing to public education in the lack of support through funding. Community schools seem to be a passion for him, and we keep losing more and more money per child to community schools. Their funding is going up. The current proposals, funding is going to go up. When you look at, if I back up a moment, first time this year I've ever seen anything like this. We had title money diverted to community schools. I'm from business, I appreciate competition. And as an excellent school district, I want to be in a position where we can beat the crap out of anybody that wants to compete with us. I have a passion to compete and win. But when you take title funding away from us, suddenly that's a new way, a new door's been opened up. Nobody's going to scream about it because it's only about $3,000 this year, but the precedent's been set. They can now divert federal title money away from the publics to the community schools. The other thing that happened that you know, we're very thankful that we passed the levy 2 years ago on the second try. But what that really did was offset the fact that the government, in restructuring the tax burden to try to get the economy going, removed the subsidy of tangible personal property reimbursement. What that was businesses used to get taxed on their inventory. As they phased that out, the government held school districts harmless for a period of time and told everybody you're going to have many years of adjustment. Well, many years turned into 2, and they took it away. And that was offset really by the passage of the new $1.5 million emergency levy. The good news on our financial situation has been open enrollment. It's been financially a tremendous success, and by next year, it'll probably, if you look at the figure from where we were, a negative almost 200 to a positive 500 and some thousand, we will probably net well over $1 million by next year and the year after because of going to open enrollment. And that's buffered what we're losing on these carve-offs to community schools and lost revenue from the federal government. And frankly, the other thing that we're also looking at trying to deal with is the tax reassessments now are in. And we'll lose about $60,000 in total because of the reappraised values. 40,000 of that will probably, well, 45,000 of that is in the PI side, the stuff that fixes the buildings. That is our only source of funding in the school district. We don't have a PI levy. So there's this artifact going back to the 1920s, and at this point I almost feel like I need to have, the 3 shells and you find the P, because when you try to explain school funding, it almost puts a treasurer in a position of looking like a con man to explain this. You go back to the 20s, there's an artifact called inside millage. Every district's got some, it's different at every district. Every district decides how to split that up. They want it all in general fund or a piece of it to go into the PI fund and so forth. There's a portion of it here that goes to the PI fund. When schools see the tax base reappraised, that inside millage doesn't reset. That inside millage generates whatever the values are. So if values drop, the money coming in drops. So that piece doesn't reset. Back under Governor Voinovich, there was House Bill 920 that said when your taxes are readjusted due to reappraisal or valuation changes, as your home inflates, the tax rate reduces and you'll pay net the same amount of money. That's to protect from inflationary increases driving people out of their homes. Well, with a deflationary situation, that goes in reverse. So what you're seeing in your new tax bills is pretty much flat unless you're a farmer. You've had your bills almost double, if not more. because of ag value has been reassessed from crop yields from the 1970s to crop yields now. So in any case, it's extremely complex to explain, and anytime you guys would want a thorough explanation, please come to my office, because I would love to explain this to people so that they can pick up the phone, call Columbus, and start asking some questions of people that wrote this. In any case, our revenues are up because of that past emergency levy. Now, the situation we're in is about every 5 years we will be on the ballot renewing existing emergency levies. None of that's new money, and we're trying to make sure that we stay off the ballot for new money. We have done that, and I want to move through these slides quick because it's not fun. There's about 30 people that no longer work for Firelands Local School District. And that's how we've contained the cost. About half of this is by attrition of people leaving, half of it's by RIF. We will be making more cut proposals to our board on Monday night. I really want it to be done. And that really depends on what our funding is out of the state. If the state will flat level fund us, I really hope we're done. And as I told people last night, and I told our healthcare committee, we'll also be making a proposal to our board Monday night. Well, yeah, Monday night we should have it in hand. We'll probably be trying to reduce what our healthcare plan will provide for our employees in order to reduce that cost so it's sustainable. Because if we don't do anything, the healthcare plan will probably blow up. Over the next few years, it'll be unsustainable. And the board will be put in a position where they don't want to be put, to remove all benefits. Part of that is because of Obamacare. In 2018, we'll face an excise tax on the plan. For those that are lower income, that are on the plan, we'll probably have to create a second plan that offers a much lower benefit, because under Obamacare, and I'm really thrilled about this one, every month my office will have to calculate and report the percentage cost of health care to that each individual in the district. Anybody that's having to pay more than 1.5% of their projected W-2 for the year, the Board of Education will pay a penalty and a tax. And that's just the beginning. So there's going to be changes in the district, even in our benefit structure, to maintain our ability to stay off the ballot. But as you go through this, it's not fun, but it's necessary to have credibility with voters. And we, as a district, will maintain credibility with our voters. We will manage cost. Having said that, when you look at our current best case situation, 2013, we're actually looking like we might be closer to 650 to 700,000 in the black, but I've already told Milt, start looking at buying a couple of buses, because we have stopped, as one of our savings, we've stopped buying buses and we are off schedule. We've got an aging bus fleet, and we've got to get back on schedule of replacing that fleet, or we'll be in a gigantic mess in a couple of years where we've got to buy every bus in the fleet, and we can't get in that position. So net of that, we think we'll be in the ballpark of about 500,000 in the black. We're also going to make a proposal Monday night to our board, which is really exciting. We've got an opportunity with our tech vendor, MCPC, to make the investment to enable us to have a one-to-one solution for our kids, so that we'll be able to do bring your own device, and be able to have that implemented probably by August of next year. If not, then certainly by the following year. But in any case, work on that can start as soon as we present to the board and have their approval. We can go forward. And that investment is pretty darn good. I really can't share the figures of it until we discuss it with the board, but it's well under what we were expecting, and we're very pleased with the proposal. As you look forward, a school district, if I'm gonna do my job that I'm paid for by you folks as a taxpayer, I have to look out 2 years and try to make that number zero or black. Where it says 127 in the red, I've got to make proposals to the board to make that go away. And so on Monday night, we'll be trying to find ways of coming up with probably about $100,000 in cuts is what we'll be discussing with the board. That in combination with the medical plan proposals that we'll probably put forward to our employees for their acceptance. What I am intending to do is to be able then by May sit with the board and present a 5-year forecast that would be totally in the black for all that forecast, which would be for a school district in Ohio right now pretty outstanding. We're in very good shape. I don't want to paint a picture of despair here. Most of the school districts in Ohio can't even look at their own 5-year forecast and see next year in the black, let alone 2 years out. So we've done some very good things to manage, and I hope that builds credibility with people in the community. With that, I think I'm done. I'll turn it over to Mike. Again, if you have any questions anytime, please stop me tonight, come to my office. I would love to share how this funding formula works. It's extremely complex, and it sounds like a treasurer is a skilled liar, frankly, when they try to explain all the nuances of the state funding formula. But with that, I appreciate it, and thank you very much.